There's a strange book like this. When it was first published, nobody cared, and the author even had to pay for its publication out of his own pocket. But 20 years later, this book suddenly sold nearly 35 million copies and became a world bestseller. The book I'm referring to is Rich Dad Poor Dad, translated into Vietnamese as Teaching Your Children to Be Rich, or Rich Dad Poor Dad, by Robert Kiyosaki. He's a famous American businessman, speaker, and author. The book has also been praised by the media as a starting point for mastering wealth. In the book, the poor dad is the author's own father. Although he's a university professor with a stable income, he's been heavily in debt his whole life. The rich dad is the father of a friend, Mike. He entered the workforce before graduating from high school, yet he managed to build a multi-billion-dollar empire and became an idol of author Kiyosaki. From the lives of his two fathers, Kiyosaki clearly saw the root causes of the gap between rich and poor. At the same time, through interesting stories, he reveals the mysterious laws behind money. Kiyosaki wrote in his book, "The reason why a person is poor is not in how much money they can earn, but in their thoughts and actions." Without mastering the basic logic of wealth, one can only ever be a wage earner. Indeed, if we cannot escape the mindset of the poor, no matter how hard we try, we will always remain poor. Hi, welcome back to SIASMR, a channel sharing knowledge for holistic personal development through great books. This week, I'll be sharing with you a topic. Without changing these mindsets, no matter how hard you try, you'll still be poor, based on the very famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Please listen. The Endless Rat Race Trap. At the beginning of the book, author Kiyosaki recounts a very interesting childhood story. At the age of 9, he went to his rich dad's supermarket to work for 10 cents an hour. Unexpectedly, his rich dad refused, saying, "If I give you the salary you want, you'll be tied to this supermarket with this money. You'll spend your whole life on just that little bit of money." This story is very similar to most people. We are often trapped in a fixed and vicious cycle. Waking up, going to work, waiting for paycheck, paying bills, then waking up again, going to work again, and paying bills again. Kiyosaki defines this work model as an endless rat race. People are like rats in an iron cage, their legs pounding frantically, the cage rattling loudly, but the next day they wake up still trapped inside. These people only see their salary. They believe that as long as they receive a higher salary, they can buy more things and experience more happiness. But in reality, they cannot see the opportunity to become wealthy outside of this endless cycle of busy work. And they don't even have the awareness to seek change. Returning to Kiyosaki's story about his job at the supermarket, his rich father not only didn't raise his salary, but also made him work for free. This forced him to find a breakthrough from his current situation. The author returned to the supermarket with a burning motivation and began observing and thinking. He then discovered that the comic books in the supermarket were completely unsaleable, only fit for recycling as waste. So he decided to use all his savings to buy hundreds of these comic books and open a reading room in his garage. From this, he earned a small profit by renting them out. How many of us are falling into this endless rat race in life? Many are trapped in this cage without even realizing it. We become so exhausted that we have no time to think, living only as survival machines, working for money. However, those who are always focused on money often fail in their pursuit of it. Therefore, to break free from this cage, we must stop this kind of running, just like Kiyosaki did. And you need to use the running time to think, to find a way to break this endless race. Blindly following a fixed mindset. In psychology, there is a concept called the social clock. This means only doing things that society dictates one should do at a certain age. This is similar to the deeply ingrained belief of a poor father who taught his children, study hard, get into a prestigious university, find a good job, and then work until retirement. The author, Kiyosaki, grew up following that social clock. But gradually, he began to feel increasingly wrong. He observed his peers around him. After graduating, they got married, bought a house on installments. After having children, they spent more and started opening credit cards. These people seemed to have houses and cars, a stable life, but in reality, they didn't have much money saved. Every day, they had to work extra jobs and find ways to make up for expenses that exceeded their budget. And once they unfortunately encounter a crisis, complete helplessness will set them off, as they will be unable to cope with such situations. At the same time, the author witnessed firsthand a friend who, after being laid off, brought his entire family, young and old, to the company to beg for mercy from the boss. Even his poor father had experienced unemployment when the economic crisis hit and couldn't find a way to make a living. Therefore, the author followed the advice of his rich father. Give up the stable job, stop following the crowd, and say goodbye to the method of survival based on a single fixed job. Kiyosaki broadened his horizons in many fields: auditing, law, accounting. He also worked as a waiter, construction worker, salesperson, and interned at large companies, and was interested in market research. Later, he founded a real estate investment company and earned his first large sum of money. The rich father said, "Whatever profession you choose, keep an open mind. What's more frightening than rigidly adhering to your own mindset? The worst thing in life is running down only one path. And the most important thing to avoid is living and acting according to the crowd mentality." Therefore, only by breaking free from stereotypical thinking can we achieve wealth. Short-sighted thinking prevents us from seeing far ahead. In the book, Kiyosaki has a female friend who is a journalist. One day she came to him and complained about something. She said that her articles were appreciated by readers, but the books she wrote with all her heart and effort weren't selling at all. She felt undervalued and confined to her low-paying job at the newspaper, earning only a meager income from writing articles. She couldn't achieve financial freedom. The author suggested she study marketing and sales. Unexpectedly, she became upset by the advice. She rebuked Kiyosaki, saying she shouldn't be mistaken for a salesperson, and that she would never allow herself to do something as simple as selling. The two parted ways on a sour note. Kiyosaki felt a pang of regret. If she could break free from her narrow career perspective and master market operations, her income would certainly not be limited to the meager earnings from writing articles. The author also advises us to view our careers like a net, and to deploy it comprehensively. Here, I'll use the author himself as an example. While a sailor, he studied international trade. When he joined the Marine Corps, he learned military command. During his time at Xerox, he mastered management skills. And while lecturing, he built his personal brand. Each of Kiyosaki's steps is like a chess piece on a chessboard of his career. Every skill is a thread in a network leading to wealth and prosperity. Only by expanding the network and weaving it tightly can the flow of wealth come in like water. You know, family background, ability, and luck are all positive supporting factors in the process of making money. But if we continue to hold on to short-sighted, narrow-minded thinking, remaining biased and stubborn, these will only hinder the flow of wealth. Put your vision into a broader picture, develop your thinking into a holistic perspective, only then will you have the potential to achieve prosperity. Without a strategic mindset, diligence becomes useless. A famous American economist once revealed a truly heartbreaking truth about today's society. He argued that while it's normal for the rich to be unwilling to change, the most frightening thing is that the poor in society also crave stability and are unwilling to change. The book recounts that Kiyosaki had a friend who worked 3 jobs simultaneously to support 4 children through school. He had to ask Kiyosaki for help, feeling like he was dying from exhaustion and still couldn't save enough money for his children's college education. Kiyosaki suggested that he quit his busy job and dedicate his time to learning about investing and making money by buying low and selling high small apartments. Sure enough, after this friend changed, he became an investment expert and said goodbye to the hard days of earning money through manual labor. He finally experienced the joy of making money using his intellect. The author believes that money is a concept. If you want to make more money, you must change your mindset. Instead of telling people to quit their jobs to blindly make money, Kiyosaki advises us to use a wealth-building mindset. Wealth and freedom cannot be achieved through mechanical labor, but through more learning, more thinking, and more practice. It's not that poor people don't work hard, but rather that they lack strategic thinking. They often think that diligence and hard work will eventually lead to success. They would rather endure hardship and suffering in their current position than accept challenges in new fields. They would also rather do repetitive tasks than accept the challenge of new knowledge. As many have said, we build something by moving the bricks around ourselves. But this inefficient, diligent struggle inadvertently creates a wall around you, blocking your own path. Truly talented people never bury themselves in work. Instead, they always seek innovation in experience and change in thinking to achieve breakthroughs. As the rich father said in his book, stability in work isn't everything. Constant thinking is everything. Self-destructive thinking leads to a lack of action. In his book, Kiyosaki tells a parable about a chicken. On a farm, other animals were basking in the sun. One chicken, however, kept pacing around in its coop, clucking, "The sky is falling, the sky is falling." The author suggests that many of us are like this chicken, living in constant anxiety and worry, thus missing many opportunities. Once, he and a friend were passing by a gas station. After learning that oil prices had risen by 15%, his friend became anxious and worried, analyzing the reasons for the increase. He feared an economic crisis was imminent, and that the world was about to descend into chaos. On the other hand, Kiyosaki also recognized the seriousness of the situation and immediately bought 65% of the shares in a small oil company. 3 months later, when they passed the gas station again, Kiyosaki had made a profit from the stock price increase. Meanwhile, his friend's assets had been halved. This was simply because his friend was constantly consumed by anxiety, unable to concentrate on his work, and his money simply evaporated. This self-destructive mindset is a truly forbidden way to become wealthy. We often fall into a state of panic because of the smallest disturbances in the outside world. In the face of crises, we often fall into a state of fear and self-scare. Just like the author's poor father, he was always afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of loss, and ultimately only able to lament, "I can't." Meanwhile, the rich father didn't overthink but acted immediately to achieve his goals. Former AB chairman, Percy Barnevik, famously stated, 5% of success is strategy and 95% is execution. God won't give you what you want, only what you do will give you the corresponding rewards. You need to remember that thinking is just a problem, doing is the answer. The paradox of throwing wood, the upside-down position. In the book, the author mentions a paradox, the paradox of throwing wood. Sitting alone in the cold night with a pile of firewood in his hands, a man shouted by the large fire, "I'll only add more firewood when you warm me up." As we all know, the fire will only burn and warm him if he adds the firewood first. In reality, many people fall into this paradox of adding firewood. They want to get rich but only think about, "what I want," without giving much thought to, what others want. In the book, both the poor father and the rich father are very kind people. However, they differ greatly in that the poor father puts himself first and only helps others when he has surplus wealth. The rich father, on the other hand, puts others first and always believes in the win-win principle. If you want something, you must give first. Even if the rich father doesn't make much profit, he still contributes to charities on time. Even if he suffers losses, he always considers the interests of his partners first. Over time, the rich father gains more respect, his relationships expand, and his career grows. Meanwhile, the poor father's path narrows. After losing his job, he can't find anyone to help him. Unfortunately, in reality, many people are very similar to the poor father. When it comes to self-interest, they always put themselves first. When collaborating with anyone, we always think about maximizing our own benefits first. If we lack altruism and giving, and instead live in the paradox of giving without giving, we might only earn a little money our whole lives but never reach true wealth. Becoming rich is like becoming a person, it's a process of giving first and receiving later. So, these are 6 insights I've gathered from this book. Actually, the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, once subjected Kiyosaki to a lot of accusations and criticisms because the author mercilessly exposed the true nature of the poor. But time is the fairest judge. Over the past 20 years, this book has proven that, despite much effort, maintaining a poor mindset is the root cause of our inability to become rich and prosperous. And many people have become rich dads thanks to this book. That's why Kiyosaki's financial wisdom is recognized and appreciated even more. After reading this book, you should understand that the true purpose of Rich Dad, Poor Dad is to awaken us to stop working for money. True wealth is never money, but our minds. The best investment isn't the market, but ourselves. In career and in life, the only way to go from poverty to wealth is through improving our thinking and awareness. Finally, I hope you can use this powerful thinking tool as a lever to change your own life. If you find this video helpful, please share it with others, give me a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for the latest videos. If you have any feelings or thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. Once again, thank you and see you in the next videos.